It's another injury report to episode here on the Broncos Breakdown, Broncos Country. Welcome into the show. My name is Moose, and I'm sure you're wondering, just like I am, what the heck is going on with the Denver Broncos injuries. Now, we know about Dre Greenlaw. He's been on the injury report for quite some time. We're going to touch on him a little bit towards the end of today's show. But two major updates that you need to know before that. Evan Engram, who we'll talk about first, and then, of course, the newest of the injuries, something that just came out yesterday, to John Franklin Myers. And that one, probably slightly more concerning than we originally thought. Let's go to Evan Engram first, though. This is the good news of today's episode, because after Evan Engram went out against the Tennessee Titans and hobbled off the field halfway through the third, threw his helmet on the ground, I was concerned. I saw the replay, and I'm like, if a player is throwing his helmet, that's usually not a good sign. However, we do have a good update on him. Now, before I touch on that, my friends, ESPN Plus has raised their prices significantly. Do you want to pay $360 a year to get all of the information that you could get for free here on the Denver Broncos Breakdown? Denver Broncos Breakdown. Nice little pause there. We're this close to 40,000 subscribers. So if you're a new Broncos fan and you want free Denver Broncos content all year, hit that subscribe button. So let's go back real quick to Evan Engram. Like I said, I was a bit concerned. And then all of the information comes out after practice on Wednesday. And remember, the media is allowed to talk to Sean Payton and all the coaches after practice, but you're not really able to comment on what's going on during practice. But here's what we got from Heavy on Broncos, who was kind of on this with all the different Denver media outlets. Broncos media noted Engram's presence during the open viewing portion of Wednesday's session. You get those little sessions here and there. Evan Engram was out there for a stretch and individual period. Engram was listed later as a limited participant. Okay, so when you hear limited, you might be thinking, uh-oh, does that mean he's not going to play? I think everybody just needs to relax on that. Limited usually means, not all the time, but usually means it's just precautionary. So if he's out there doing individual drills and they're just trying to make sure that he rests up and heals up that calf as much as possible, then yes, he'll be just fine and he should be able to play on Sunday. And that's a good thing, because if you look at this Broncos tight end room, outside of Evan Engram, who you just brought in, by the way, you're looking at what you rolled out last year. And what you rolled out last year wasn't nearly good enough to compete at the highest level, especially for a young quarterback like Bo Nix. So having Evan Engram be okay is so important for the Denver Broncos, not only for the remainder of the season, but for week 2, because the Colts have a damaged secondary. Every team is going through injuries, but right now the Colts' problem is their cornerback room. We touched on it yesterday. 2 of their players, one starter, one rotational corner, are both out for Sunday's matchup against the Broncos. So they'll need all of their available weapons to take control and take apart this Colts struggling secondary. All right, that's the good news. Let's move on to the bad news. John Franklin Myers. And this one honestly kind of came out of nowhere. He only recorded 1 tackle, which is kind of surprising considering last year he had such an amazing season. And to start off so slowly, maybe this had something to do with it. He's dealing with this lingering knee problem right now, and it got so bad that he was out of practice Wednesday, missed the entire practice. No individual drills, no team drills, nothing. Just completely missed. Now, usually, like I said before, when you're limited, that's a good sign. When you don't practice, that's a bad sign. Here's what Broncos Sports Illustrated had to say. In his second season with the Broncos, Franklin Myers notched only 1 solo tackle amid last week's 20-12 victory over the Titans. The soon-to-be 29-year-old did not appear worse for wear as he was on the field for 63% of the team's defensive snaps. Though his knee issue could be minor in nature, any potential absence is a financial impediment to Franklin Myers, who is unsigned, beyond 2025 and openly seeking a contract extension. So I think we need to wait on the severity. We need to wait for more details to come out, because if he misses week 2, then it's a little bit more serious than we originally thought. And like I said, if you miss practice, when players are healthy, they're practicing. If players are slightly hobbled but should be able to play that Sunday, they're limited. If you're not participating in practice, that's usually a bad sign. So we need to wait for the severity of it. But I do want to at least wave the red caution flag on John Franklin Myers. And as that Sports Illustrated article alluded to, his contract negotiation and his want and demand for a new contract, it's out in the open. Like, he's made it very, very clear, not only through his words, but also on his social media. He is seeking a new contract extension, whether that be with the Denver Broncos or another team in the NFL. So if you wanted to stay at Mile High, you got to be on the field. Because here's the thing. As much as George and Sean Payton want to do what's best for the players, because it is a cohesive unit here at Mile High, the Denver Broncos, just like any other organization, are still a business. They'll do what's best in the interest of the Denver Broncos. So for every game and practice that John Franklin Myers is not available or out there not giving you the production that he's, or that he's expected to give you, which was evidenced by week 1 in that one tackle. Look, you got to be out there. You got to be out there and you got to be playing. Injuries are no fault of any one specific reason. I'm not blaming John Franklin Myers for being injured. But this is also probably the worst possible case for JFM that we could have seen this earlier on in the season. And I think it's also fair to mention that out of all the Broncos defensive linemen that got significant playing time against the Titans, he was the worst out of all of them. Ioma Uwazurike got 3 tackles. Zach Allen had 1 sack, 1 tackle, but 5 quarterback hits. He was getting pressure all game long. JFM was kind of the lone defensive lineman that didn't really have that great of a game. Only 1 tackle. So I'll ask you this question because right now I'm at about a 6. How concerned are you about JFM's injury? Scale it 1 to 10 for me. 10 being like super concerned, 1 being like not concerned at all. I understand if you say you're not concerned, considering, there's no ruling on if he's going to be out for an extended period of time. As of right now, the only thing in question is his Week 2 status. Now, coming up, speaking of Week 2 status, what about Dre Greenlaw? Because we just gave you an update about 2 days ago on where Sean Payton gave a positive outlook, but he still isn't practicing. We'll touch on that here in just a second. But before we do, my friends, check out the bling bling on the ring. Yes, I got married last weekend. And now that I am, families are going to start coming. And life insurance is something that I do not play about. And that's where Ethos comes in. Listen, you can get protected and covered with rates at less than $23 a month. They are revolutionizing the insurance industry with a 100% online process and can provide protection for you and your loved ones in as little as 10 minutes. Ethos has no medical exams. Just answer a few easy health questions online. 100% online and hassle-free process makes it easy to apply. You can get same-day coverage without ever leaving your house. Protect your family with life insurance from Ethos. Get your free quote at ethos.com/NFL Daily. That's ethos.com/NFL Daily. I will have all of that in the comments and description of today's video. Thank you to Ethos for sponsoring today's video. So let's talk Take 2. Let's talk Dre Greenlaw. He hasn't practiced in over a week. I came to you about 48 hours ago and I said, I think this is strategic by Sean Payton. And I still hold that belief. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, what the hell was up with Dre Greenlaw? Why are they downplaying his injury? I don't think that they are. I think, personally, that Payton is deliberately keeping Greenlaw out until week 3 against the LA Chargers. Think about it. He's obviously not 100%. We know that much to be true. We're going up against the Indianapolis Colts. And what we saw against the Titans with the depth that the Broncos have added and shown through week 1, I think Sean Payton looks at it and goes, this is a game of chess, not a game of put him in immediately and watch him go. I would much rather have Dre Greenlaw fully healthy down the stretch of the season than to just put him in and see what he's got. But I do also understand that us being fans and us being fans of the Broncos, Greenlaw's making $10 million a year. Like, you got to play, man. You cannot be making that kind of money per year and only play in half the games. It's not enough. And we went out and signed you to that 3-year deal, expecting you to be on the field. Now, remember, if you play 14 or 15 games with his injury history, I'm okay with that. I'm very much okay with 14 to 15 games a year. If you only miss 2 to 3 games a year with the depth the Broncos currently have in this linebacker room, I am totally fine with it. But when you start missing 5, 6, 7 games, then I take umbrage with it. Because just like you, I love this football team. I want to see the best players play for this football team. But do we get now why depth was so important? Do you understand why Moose came to you all those months ago and said, hey, we need a lot of depth at the linebacker position because history tells us that one of those 3 dudes, Drew Sanders, Dre Greenlaw, Alex Singleton, is going to miss significant time. Well, Drew Sanders got injured basically immediately at the beginning of training camp, and now Dre Greenlaw is probably in jeopardy of missing week 2. So I'm not going to be the one to sit here and say, I told you so, because that's not what I do. But I do think that now more than ever, you have to be able to, take all of that into account. That's why I harped on it. I saw so many different fans get in the comment section. They're not injured right now. Why are you continually bringing this up? For this reason right here. Because now it's week 2, and you're without Drew Sanders, and you're without Dre Greenlaw. But I also think it's pretty strategic right here from Sean Payton. So, I'll ask you, what week do you think Dre Greenlaw will suit up for Mile High? I think week 3. Week 2, I think they're going to keep him out one more week, get him as healthy as you can. First divisional matchup against the LA Chargers next week. That is going to be the time that you see him on the field. But let's focus on week 2 because you're 1-0. You got to get to 2-0. You have an opportunity to go up against a less talented roster in the Indianapolis Colts. Granted, I think they're going to be better than the Tennessee Titans. So make sure, if you're the Denver Broncos, you don't take this game lightly because what we saw the Colts do to a very weakened Miami Dolphins team, they're going to be riding high when they enter Lucas Oil Stadium come Sunday afternoon. That's going to do it for us on today's episode. For me, producer Dylan on the 1s and 2s, and to you, Broncos country, a mile high salute. Be cool.